working. Jimmy, PA system's out? Yeah. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. The PA system, we've been having some real difficult issues with it. It's been very temperamental, and we've had the technician here multiple times to try to repair it, and they are scratching their heads as we are as well. So I would ask the council if they would please just speak loudly when they address any member of the committees tonight when we have questions. And I would ask the public to just please speak a little louder to us, and to me especially. I'm hard of hearing. So, I'd like to open this big public hearing at the moment. I'd like to ask everyone to please stand for the pledge of allegiance. As Mr. Minter, if he would please lead us.
Mr. President, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll just ask the council member of the public. We have two department heads in the city today that were both rushed to the hospital, and we just keep Mr. Null and Mr. Palazzo in your thoughts. Both staying guests in the hospital tonight for further evaluation. So I would just ask everybody to keep Mr. Palazzo and Mr. Null in your thoughts. Thank you. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Arconti.
Present.
Curran.
Here.
DeMichi. Here. Riley. Seabury. Stanley. Here. Taylor. Cola.
Here.
Nagershev.
Present.
Hollis. Cabo.
Present.
Sadi. Visconti. Trombetta. Knapp.
Here.
Nero.
Here.
Perkins.
Present.
Shanice.
Present.
Rotello.
Here.
Teichel. Present. Scazafava. We have 13 members present, 8 absent. And folks, I'm going to just have to take a stand here. I know Mr. Sadi is out of town on military duty, serving at West Point, and he would be unable to make it. I know Mr. Seabury is out of town. I know Mr. Taylor, I believe Mr. Taylor is working this evening. Mr. Hallis is probably working as well. Mr. Visconti, I believe, is out of town on family business. Mr. Trombetta is here in town, but he's attending the family business. Mr. Scazafava is recovering from some minor health issues that he's recovering from rapidly. That's where you have us tonight, folks. Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Danbury will hold public hearings in which parties of interest and citizens will have an opportunity to be heard in relation to the following, copies of which are on file in the Legislative Assistance Office for public inspection. Item number 1, sanitary sewer project, 99-02 Olive Street and Tilden Road area. Item number 2, Danbury Main Street Partnership, Code of Ordinance Section 19C 1-5. And item number 3 is a refusal to accept unwrapped coins, Code of Ordinance Section 18-24. Said public hearing will be held on Tuesday, the 21st day of June, 2011 at 7 p.m. in the Council Chambers, City Hall, 155 Deerhill Avenue, Danbury, Connecticut. As attested by Legislative Assistant James Vitale. And notice to the members of the council that are here, we will be having a committee of the whole on these 3 items immediately after the public hearing closes. Ladies and gentlemen that are here tonight, the council is here in the public hearing to hear from you. We don't ask questions of you, and we don't answer questions from you. We're here to listen to you and what your thoughts are, and what we will do is, if you ask questions, most of us will write them down, and we'll ask department heads or corporation council during the committee of the whole when we're in session as an ad hoc committee. So We're here to listen to you. I will ask 3 times on each item if anyone would like to speak and address the council on each item, and we take them generally in order. When you come up to speak to us, I would normally ask you to use the microphone, but if you can stand somewhere in the area of the microphone, if you would just spell your last name for the clerk when you give us your last name and your address, so that we can have the record properly reflecting who spoke to us this evening. And that's about it. So we're going to move right into item number 1, which is sanitary sewer project number 99-02, Olive Street and Tilden Road area. Is there any member of the public that wishes to address the council on the sanitary sewer project on Olive Street and Tilden Road area? Is there any member of the public wishing to address? Sir, come on up.
Good evening. My name is Eric Madison. I reside at 18 Tilden Road, property affected by the sewer project. I received documentation.
Sorry, sir, could you please spell your last name?
Yes, Manson, Lanson. The letter that I received makes statement of a cost estimate for the project. I compared it to my notes back in 2003 when the project was initiated, and have noticed a tremendous increase in cost as a result of an 8-year delay. I am curious why there was such a delay in this project to begin with, and I find now that the whole project is unaffordable. I also would have liked to receive a spreadsheet detailing more of the different costs that goes into that project, and also what is expected of the homeowner to shoulder on his own, and what is actually city property in the project. And based on the number that I received, if it was a contractor giving me this estimate, I would not hire him for the job. I need to know more. Thank you.
We'll ask that and clean the hole immediately following the public hearing.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Is there any other member of the public? Sir?
Last name, K-O-P-H-L-E-R-T. Reside at 51 Olive Street. It's my feeling that at this time, under these economic circumstances, this project would pose a tremendous financial hardship on some of these residents on the street, including myself. Perhaps it's time for another delay. Or, I'm not familiar with how you put these things out to bid, but you might want to reconsider a greater field bidding on the particular project. Keep the cost down.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other member of the public wishing to address the council on item number 1? Ma'am? It's not working. We just need you to speak loudly to us.
Jessica Granger, Granger, Olive Street, Danbury, and we're speaking in favor of the project. However, I do agree with the other comments that the prices do seem quite high. I have 2 properties that would be affected by this. However, they both have septic for both of them, and if I were to have to replace these septic systems, I would be in a much worse situation than if I were to have this assessment for the sewer. I know know this has delayed quite some time and has affected the price. I think that maybe finding some ways to reduce costs would be great. If we getting some additional quotes at this time. The other aspect to consider for this project is, again, just having to replace any one septic system. A contractor to put in a new septic isn't going to let you pay it back over 20 years. So it would be great for our property values. And the other thing I wanted to say is the survey. The survey that went out, there was yes responses, no response, and no responses. Just by looking at the survey results, it looks like it's less than 50% that are in favor. But I would consider looking at those responses by taking out the people that did not respond, taking them out of the denominator, and therefore the yes responses would count for almost 65%. Which to me makes for a favorable survey. Thank you.
And if you could just share items.
39 olive and 35%.
Sure, 39 olive and
35%.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public wishing to address the service?
Ron Hutchins, Hutchins, 37 Olive Street. I'm speaking in favor of this project. Like Ms. Granger said, replacing one septic would be more impactful than having to pay over 20 years the assessment for the sewer line. What I think is favorable is in these economic times, from what I understand, there are a lot of contractors that are hungry for work. And knowing that from 2003, the cost of this has risen dramatically, it's not going to get cheaper. Perhaps now is the time to throw this out to multiple bids, because there are contractors that are hungry to work, and perhaps the original assessment that was explained to us could in fact be lower given these times that we are currently in. But I speak in favor of property values, allow small lots such as myself to be able to expand into their backyards if they choose. Right now, I'm pretty much prohibited in terms of advancing my property on its current framework. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hutchins. Is there any other member of the public that wishes to address the council on item number 1, sanitary sewer, Olive Street, Sylvan Road area? Ma'am, come on up.
Hi, my name is Erica Calderon, Calderon, and we live in 31 Olive Street, and we are in favor for sewer because 10 years ago when we bought the house, after 3 months our septic tank broke and we paid more than $30,000, and we were scared it's going to break again. We're going to have to pay another $30,000. We feel it's very expensive for the sewer, so they can help us out.
Great, thank you. Any other member of the public wishing to address the council on item number 1? Ma'am?
My name is Ann Alvarez, A-L-V-A-R-E-Z. I live at 16 Sylvan Road. I'm also speaking in favor of the project. And we bought our house in 1998. This was also a consideration at that time. We were told when we were buying the house there would be a septic put in, a sewer put in, and that was one of the reasons why we wanted the property. We wanted septic, and 14 years later we saw septic. And I also am in favor of paying over 20 years instead of having to replace, in an emergency situation with such a big expense to be really hard for us. So I'm speaking in favor as well.
Thank you. Any other member of the public wishing to address the council on item number 1? Any other, ma'am?
My name is Karen Muller, and we 55 years old, he's living in 90 years next month. And I don't know how long the original septic, which I believe is going to last. And I would rather be able to do some sort of a plan where I end up with a surprise bill for, a large amount of money. So you have the time to pay it off over time. And then you know that it's done, once the sewer is really expired. So I'm also.
Thank you. Any other member of the public wishing to address the council on item number 1? Any other member of the public wishing to address the council on item number 1, sanitary sewer, Olive and Tilden? Any other member of the public wishing to address the council on item number 1? Seeing none, we'll move to item number 2. Danbury Main Street Partnership. Any member of the public wishing to address the council on the Danbury Main Street Partnership? Oh, Mr. Elton, I'm sorry.
Dennis Elton, Planning Director. I want to present to you the findings of the Main Street Renaissance Task Force. Paul, the task force was appointed in 2008 and came up with a final recommendation in December of last year. The report, this one, particularly included 8 sections focused on development in the downtown, on urban design and historic preservation, and on public improvements. But at the end of the report, they talked about means of implementing the recommendations in the report. And there are 2 main focuses on that. One was the creation of the partnership, which is before you tonight, and the other was to appoint a full-time continuing development director. The partnership's major purpose is to promote the revitalization of the downtown revitalization zone, and that zone is specified now in our zoning regulations, so it does have the force of law. Do you all have, or do you all know the area that I'm talking about? The revitalization, would you like a map? Need any of that? Have it memorized?
I don't believe we have a memorized.
But you have a general idea.
General idea.
It's the downtown. Okay. Let me just briefly go over the major parts of the ordinance. First, it would be made up of the mayor and 10 additional members who were appointed by the mayor. These are people who have demonstrated experience, leadership, involvement, and expertise in downtown business development, planning, and activities. And these include representatives of the downtown business community, downtown property owners and residents, design and historic preservation professionals, the Downtown Special Services District, City Center Danbury, the Chamber of Commerce, Department of Planning and Zoning, and the Office of Economic Development. And then he goes into the standard kinds of setup of any commission, with officers, a chair, vice chair, and secretary. They would initially have staggered terms so that they don't all resign at the same time. The duties, and I think this is important, is to encourage, coordinate, and monitor the revitalization of the downtown. This is not a super commission which will impede or infringe upon the duties and responsibilities of other agencies and commissions, most of which have legal jurisdiction over certain elements, and that includes the zoning commission, the city council, and others. Okay. What it is designed to do is to coordinate and monitor and promote downtown revitalization, because there's no overall group right now that does that and works that function. So, what does this mean? In January of each year, by January, well, that's when we begin our budget cycle. We will prepare an annual program of recommended public and private actions necessary to implement the report for the coming year. And we realize that there are over 30 recommendations in the report. We can't do them all at once, so we can do them a bit at a time. And that's the first responsibility. I think it's a crucial one. They can meet with downtown property owners and tenants to discuss downtown problems. They can consult with public officials, my department, Public Works and others, on proposed downtown plans, programs, regulations, and public improvements for consistency with our report. They will monitor downtown progress, evolving conditions and needs, entertain and solicit public opinions, attitudes, and concerns, and provide leadership in all other ways necessary to meet the downtown vision contained within the report. It's a 2-page ordinance, and we ask for your support.
During the public speaking portion of our meeting, we'll check you as a yes, if you're in favor of this, and then we can ask you to stick around for the committee of the whole after in case anybody has any questions for you. Thank you, Mr. Elmer. Gardner?
Hi, good evening. Andrea Gardner, G-A-R-T-N-E-R, 16 Hastestown Road. And speaking as a member of the public in support of any steps that move forward to revitalizing our downtown. As a member of the community, I feel very strongly personally that the health of the downtown is certainly a reflection of the health of the community as a whole. And that downtown really should be about a place where people can convene and congregate and celebrate. I'm also here to speaking on behalf of my board chairman, Tom Devine, chairman of the Board of Commissioners of City Center Danbury, not make it here tonight. Also speaking in favor as the organization head in favor of the Danbury Main Street Partnership Formation. As a member of the task force, recommendations were I think very well put. Dennis has put and Cheryl has put a lot of energy, time and energy and thought into that, and the creation of the partnership to see that through. But I'd also like to add that in addition to the qualities and the characteristics of the people who should be on this partnership, I'd like to see people who are really in the game of downtown revitalization. People who really, as a matter of course, and a member of the community at large, feel that the revitalization of our urban core is an important item. And rather than be someone who's sort of on bleachers, maybe commenting or just even warming up the bench, I'd like to really see people who want to be on the court and playing the game of downtown revitalization as members of that partnership.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ma'am?
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Maureen Farrell. I'm actually representing the Regional YMCA of Western Connecticut, who has downtown properties both at Escape to the Arts and on Fountain Street in Danbury. And I'm actually here in support of the proposal for the downtown Main Street Partnership, and hope that as the regional, I just want to mention that the regional line recently has been awarded for the Greater Danbury community. We've been nominated as an Achieve community, which stands for now I'm going to be Action Community for Health, Innovation, and Change, and is a CDC award. And as part of that, we really part of what they're asking us to do is become involved in the many community sectors. And I agree with what Andrea Gardner had mentioned before, that the health of the community is really reflected in the downtown area. So the Regional Y is very interested in being part of that partnership, or at least having a member of one of our Achieve team partners, which includes Danbury Hospital, the Western Connecticut Health Network. And we have also had some other partners such as the United Way, the Regional Y. We have a number of nonprofit organizations, all of which are collaborating in this Achieve movement. And so we think this is a great step forward and a great chance for an opportunity to really improve downtown Danbury. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Is there any other member of the public wishing to address the council on item number 2? Any other member of the public wishing to address the council on item number 2? Any other member of the public wishing to address the council on item number 2? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 3. Unwrapped coin. Proposed amendment to ordinance 18-24. Is there any member of the public that wishes to address the council on item number 3? Is there any member of the public wishing to address the council on item number 3? Any member of the public wishing to address the council on item number 3? Seeing none, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ortello, thank you. Seconded by Mr. Nagerseth. All those in favor of closing the public hearing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? The public hearing is now officially closed. We're going to now open the committee of the whole, and I ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Arconti.
Present.
Curran.
Here.
Deep Demichi. Here. Riley. Seabury. Stanley. Here. Taylor. Cola.
Here.
Nagerseth.
Present.
Hollis. Pavo.
Present.
Savi. Visconti. Trombetta. Knapp.
Here.
Nero.
Here.
Perkins.
Present.
Shanice.
Present.
Rotello.
Here.
Eichel. Present. Skazakaba.
Okay. 13 members present, 8 absent. Would the clerk please let the record reflect the same reasons for absentee that you cited in the public hearing? Okay, item number 1, sanitary sewer project number 99-02, Olive Street, Tilden Road area. I think if the council indulge me, I think I'd like to ask Mr. Corey, Mr. Iagarola, if they would please brief us.
For the record, Antonio Arroyo, Public Works Director, Bree Curry, City Engineer. We took some notes. If we missed anything that you would like answered, please just let us know. But I think one of the speakers spoke a little bit about the delay of the project. The project by the Town Council was approved for design in 2004. The project did involve a significant easement to be acquired by one of the residents that really wasn't receiving any benefit from the project. So it was I don't want to say it was difficult, but it was a complicated acquisition of an easement. That individual was also being severely impacted by some road drainage. So we had to then develop a drainage project that would also accommodate the impact that this resident was having. That took a substantial amount of time. And then approximately in 2007, we asked the state of Connecticut DOT to allow us to connect into their storm sewer on Route 7. And it took 3 years to secure the approval to actually connect that drainage system into their storm sewer. So that's really what drove a lot of the delays in the project. The project is a very simple project, very easily designed, simple construction. The easements took quite a bit of time. So if there's any questions, please stop me. I'm just going to go on to, I think, the next question. There was some discussion about increasing costs from 2003. As you know, between 2003 and probably around 2007, we saw an incredible escalation of construction pricing. And although it's somewhat stabilized, it's never gone back to what we traditionally were seeing in the mid-2000s. So that has an impact on cost. The other thing that has an impact on cost is approximately in 2006, Fareed and I took a look at the way the engineering department was actually doing estimates on these projects. And what we found was that based on the bids that were coming back, there should be some greater detail in those estimates. So What you're seeing is an additional increase in a more detailed estimate, which, to be honest with you, is really benefits the property owner. They're not getting surprised when we're done with a higher assessment. That's the last thing any one of us wants to be involved in after we do a significant project like this, and a resident is given a number, and then the number is far more than what we communicate. So those two issues impacted the final number. Yeah, we have a professional engineering firm that actually did the construction estimate based on our protocol, and then we reviewed that estimate, and we found it to be within our tolerable standards. And while I'm on that topic, I just want to talk a little bit about the bidding. A couple of people talked about bidding. We're in a perfect construction climate right now. And we do plan on securing as many competitive bids as possible from as many qualified contractors. The fact that this is a pretty simple, easy sewer construction project, I think we're going to get a significant number of bids, and I like to be pleasantly surprised. I like to think that we're going to come in well below what our estimate.
Antonio, I'm sorry. There's someone.
Sorry, well, we just pause for 1 second. There is some technical difficulties before here.
Okay, we're good to go. Thank you.
Okay, with that.
There was a discussion about city property possibly being involved in the assessment project. There is no city property. There used to be a piece of city property long time ago, probably 7, 8 years, maybe even more. But that's been sold, and it's actually privately owned. So there is no city property here. If there was city property and it was benefiting from this assessment, like other projects, we would have to share in that cost of the assessment. And I think I hit the highlights of some of the questions. If there's anything else I missed, please let us know. We'll answer any questions you have.
Mr. Knapp?
Yeah, a couple of quick questions for you, Mr. President. You talked about the increase in cost. I know there was a gentleman who asked before about that. What is the percentage that they were originally presented with compared to what they were presented with now? You know, is it 10%, 50%, 100%?
Well, yeah, I mean, I have some rough numbers. In 2003, the 27 properties, it was about $400,000. The current projection today is $905. So that's basically, you're looking at from 2003 to 2011, and you're looking at, the escalation, and you're looking at a more refined way of doing estimates.
And then the other question is the time frame. What can these tenants expect, or residents expect as a time frame for this project to kick off? Are we going to be another 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, where we'll be facing a whole new set of financial issues?
Actually, let me answer this. Actually, the project is almost 98% design complete. The bids documents are ready. So after the Common Council in July, whether they vote in favor or against it, then we can bid this in August or September, and hoping we'll start before the cold weather. And it's a full cycle for construction. It's a good 6 to 9 months construction.
Thank you.
Mr. Darren?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Iadrola, the second property on the right there, the red one, do you have a number for what that is?
Yeah, we have a number.
May I have a
Sure. It's parcel 11029. That's probably the second largest parcel.
I picked that one because it's...
Because it was bright red?
Well, that might have got my attention, but I think that's because that they don't want it. But I just want to get an idea as to how much they're going to get hit for. Sure.
East Region?
Do you have it, Tom?
It's 48,543.
48,000 or 40 or 48?
48.
48.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's almost, the area is 3/4 of an acre.
And we're looking at 20 years, did we say?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome, Mr. Mayor. Let's go Mr. Arcandi and then Mr. Curran. You want to go Mr. Curran first? I'll go Mr. Arcandi first, and then Mr.
Germantown and Osborne, they have sewer. What about the area between number 12 Tilden going down the hill to Germantown? Do they have sewer?
Yes,
So basically, everybody in the whole neighborhood would have sewer now.
that's correct.
Thank you.
This will complete the sewer assessment area for that entire neighborhood.
And this system is not going to be tapped into the other one?
No, because of some elevation,
Okay.
which a high point right about here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Curran?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question, I don't know who to ask it. What's the zoning in this area?
I lost information.
All right, the reason I ask this question is that,
It's RA 20.
which means what? All right, the reason I ask this question is that I built my house 40 years ago in a neighborhood just like this. And sewer was coming in. And when it came in, I think there's 5 of us left. But in the meantime, we now have 3 and 4 family houses on pieces of property that you couldn't build a house on. Now, I know these people they might need sewer, but I hope they're aware of the fact if somebody comes in and pulls a fast one and changes the zoning on them, these people are all going to pull out, and you're going to have 3 and 4 family houses, and they're going to have a destroyed neighborhood like my neighborhood is. There's about 5 of us, the only neighbors that are still left there in the last 40 years. Everybody else sold out, 3 family houses, contractors come in, the neighborhood went right down the tubes. So, I know these people might need sewer. I still might vote against it to protect them against down the road.
Thank you, Mr. Curran. Mr. Worthall?
Thank you. Through the chair to the recording secretary, I heard a woman, I think she said she was from 31 Olive Street. Did I hear that correctly, 31 Olive? Because she spoke in favor of Alderman. Yet, on my map, it looks like a negative vote. So, and I thought I also heard somebody else say they were from 35 Olive who was in favor, who also was recorded here as negative. Did I hear that correctly? 37.
I have 39 Olive in favor, 37 Olive in favor, and 31 Olive in favor.
So 31 is in favor. And you said 35 also?
No, 39 and
Okay.
37.
Because we had a property owner with 2 parcels, and I thought one of them was...
Yes, she was 39 Olive and 35 Springside.
Thank you. That's my confusion. Okay, thank you very much. Through the chair to David St. Hilaire. David, can you give me a back-of-the-envelope estimate for the monthly nut on the average assessment over the next 20 years? Should we vote in favor?
Really don't. I don't have those numbers at hand. I can get those numbers to you working with these guys.
But we're talking about 35,000, I think was the average?
Well, each parcel, I mean, you just look at the size, they vary all over the place. In order for probably David to give you a ballpark number, we have to probably select a parcel and have him run his financials.
Each of them are different.
Oh, they're
Depends on the size.
drastically different based on the size of the lots.
You guys have never just come up with an average monthly?
Well, because they're all different, we don't use average because it would be unfair to the residents.
Let me ask you this. What would the fee be per 10,000? Would you have an idea? Would that help a little bit more? What's the interest rate? Okay. What's our interest rate?
Interest rate we use about 5%, depending on what rates are. For this one, I think the most recent one we used was about 4.5. So probably 4.5 would be still the standard that we would use. We usually base it upon whatever our most recent issue is, and we're going out in July, so I'll probably go close to what that is.
Okay. And then if I may, Mr. Chairman, one more follow-up. Please proceed through the chair to the engineers of public works. Do we have any idea what the hookup charge is generally per foot? I know they're all different too, but do you guys have some sort of, I mean, I just did one, cost me $8,000. And it
Well,
was,
there is, the difference here is when you're an assessment project, you only pay the $250 permit fee. Then, 225? 225. Then you have to hire a contractor.
that's what I mean. So that's my
And
question.
those can range depending on how far he has to dig. I would say anywhere between probably 3,000 to probably 10,000, depending on how much digging they have to do. Realize when we do the sewer laterals for these residents, we actually put them directly behind the curb, so they're not digging the road up anymore.
Not in the middle of the street.
Exactly, and you know, 10,000 is an extreme. It's probably more around $3,000.
So you put the line in near a curb, but what about the guy across the street on the other curb? Is he-
The same.
He gets
Do
one.
you do a thing called you call it lateral?
Yeah,
That's
opposing sides.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, Commissioner O'Connell. Mr. Sheenes?
Thank you. Through the chair, when you were doing your cost estimates regarding these easements that you had up in, are those costs part of this assessment that you do drainage and everything?
No, not the drainage.
Just the cost of
the
the
easement, because we still need an easement for the sewer, so that's included in this project.
So
The
not-
drainage is the city cost completely.
Okay, so not getting tacked on.
No.
And just again to follow, when you were doing your surveys, the homeowners that did not respond, you tried to contact them again to see if they were in favor or not in favor, because it's, if you look at it, 13, 7, and 7, it's pretty, you know, those 7 voted no, it's almost like 50-50 at this point.
In other projects, we did exercise this, and we found the same people never answered us back. So they never answered from the first time, and most of them did not answer on the second time.
Yeah, I think 2 years ago, Free, didn't we, 2 separate attempts, try to solicit,
And the same people never
and the
answered.
same people never answered back. And that was based on the council person's, you know, begged us to just re-solicit the neighborhoods.
One more follow-up, then. When you did the initial survey back in 2003, is that the same owner that they are today, or did you see a changeover?
I think there is some changes in the vote, although the vote in 2003 is the same percentage-wise as today, but some people changed their mind and everything. But there are people moved in and out.
What's ironic is you might have a different owner, and you had a change in who voted yes or no, but the percentages are identical. It's kind of odd, you know.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sort of follow up on Mr. Janice's question. Are these non-responses, are they property owners or are they absentee landowners? I ask the same question every time we have this issue with the sewer, because it seems like the absentee landowners don't want the sewer and the actual owners want the sewer. Do we have any idea whether these 7 people with no response, are they the actual owners or are they absentee owners?
I don't have this information.
You don't know?
I can find it out and let you know.
But it seems like, I mean, especially, I mean, so many of these projects come before us and they're overwhelmingly, you know, rejected. I'm happy to see a project here that the neighborhood wants sewer, is that people realize the value of sewer and water and gas. So it's, but I feel that a lot of times we're getting blindsided by absentee landowners who are only interested in their bottom line and not in the long-term value of the neighborhood. So that's my concern, is that we're addressing the issues of taxpayer families who live in Danbury, who contribute to the town, and who care about their neighborhood as opposed to somebody who only care about surveying.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How many of these surveys were conducted? I mean, I'm looking here at one for 2011, February. You mentioned that the project was approved in 2003. How many were in between that time frame? You know?
I think we only have 2 surveys in 2000, 2003 and 2010.
And this is a result of 2010?
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Cheney, for something?
Thank you, Chair. And again, as I go through this, it seems like it's a 50-50 yes and no, which is going to lead me to believe that the ones who don't want it are in financial constraints that fight to pay for it. What would happen? What is the city's procedure if they run into financial difficulties and we cannot pay the assessment? What would the city do? I guess it would be less. I understand that. But just for the record, if they were looking procedure, what would the city do?
The city would notify the assessing office of the fee, and there would be a lien or other action taken for a basic default. Sometimes people start paying, try to work with what you can, otherwise you
You actually foreclose on the property again?
pretty rare, good. That's an extreme remedy that would only be used when time passes and is considered default.
For the worst that would happen, just put lien on the property itself.
That's how we usually do it, because with the lien, when you institute an assessment, you agree to the assessment, and you also agree that it will be filed to the assessment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure who this should be addressed to, so let me just look at both of them. If it's possible, if this makes any sense, going forward, since a couple of questions that were asked this evening are repeat questions, and Councilman Taylor brought one up, and I brought one up. I'm always interested in how it's going to financially impact the people that are saying no, because my heart kind of goes out to those people. But if we could have, if it's possible, maybe have those numbers going forward so that when we get this, we know what those numbers are, and Councilman Taylor's issue is also addressed. Because then it'll just speed up the process so that we don't have to ask the same questions over and over again. Is that possible?
What our office did in the past, the minute we sent the mail survey out, we did email the whole council and the mayor and the city clerk just to tell them that this thing went. But if you want a hard copy, you can print one. And
No, that's okay. What you're saying is I should have gotten an email on that. That's what you're telling me?
No. We did email it back in November of 2010 when we sent the survey to the residents. So an email went out to all the council.
In the future, we can get a little spreadsheet together for you.
Well, I don't want to make things difficult for you, but the same questions seem to get asked all the time.
It's not a problem. We can put a simple spreadsheet. We have the information.
Okay.
And, as far as whether the resident actually lives there or not, I mean, we're going to take a stab at guessing. If their mailing address is different than the actual, the address of the property, most likely is not a, resident that's there. That's might be a tenant. We could try to identify that on the spreadsheet.
Yeah, without making it nuts. It's just.
No, I know. Yeah, Councilman Taylor has.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
At this time, I'd like to just pass the gavel to Mr. Knapp. I'd like to speak for a moment. As one of the ward representatives for the ward that these streets are in, I will tell you that in my 8 years on the council, every time I door knock in that ward, people beg me to put the sewer in. I've had people since 2003 ask me, when is it coming? And I keep saying to them, it's coming, just be patient. There's issues that cropped up. In 2003, I thought it was going to go into 2005. 2005, I think the issue with the state popped up, and it got delayed. In 2007, there was another delay. People were still asking me to complete this. Everybody in the entire area around them has sewers.
This is the only piece of parcel that does not, is to complete this area, this entire area's sewer parcel, put them in with the rest of the sewer residents in Danbury. So I looked at the map, kind of going along Mr. Nero's line of thought, and if you look at that lot up on the top, the largest green one on the top, they have a $67,000 assessment going in favor of this project. These are always very difficult. I tell people all the time, probably the hardest thing we do in this council is make decisions on people's assessments for sewer and water projects. And when I got the packet and the vote in February, I was happy with the numbers. I, like most, am disappointed in the number of no responses. I mean, it's something that actually monetarily affects you, and I would think that you would respond and at least take an interest and let us know what you want us to do. But I'm comfortable with the numbers, and I think that my constituents in that area will be well served. If I could just ask Commissioner Idaho and Mr. Corey, just quickly running this in my head, like we did Horncastle and Hawley, you're not going to have a shovel in the ground probably much before December.
We're hoping the late fall.
Okay,
Yeah.
the late fall. So now this project's not going to be complete until December of 2012, roughly a year.
Not really. I think in the summer we should have it wrapped up and we're actually growing grass.
So we think that assessment, first payment request for assessment will be going out in 2012 or 2013?
I would think 2012. I think we can close this project out in 2012, give final numbers so we can do our final calculations, and that's what we're thinking.
Okay, and I appreciate you shooting for that. I'm just going to tell you from my past experience, sitting here, it's usually there's delays in there. So I'm betting that the residents in this neighborhood won't see their assessments until late 2012 or even early 2013. So we're still time away from them having to put money out of their pockets for a year away. So.
And you're right, once we get our project completed and we get the final assessments done, you guys as a body vote on those individual assessments.
Right.
So that there's a process there. So yeah, you could be going right into 2012 easily.
Thank you. I kind of want to speak at the same time.
Yeah, I got a quick one here. About 10 or 11 years ago, I repaired the septic system at number 42 Oliver in the corner of Tilden and Olive Street. Those folks were desperate. I don't offer financing. I'm a Connecticut licensed septic installer. And it cost a fair amount of money back then. It'd be a heck of a lot more now, I'm sure. And again, I don't offer financing. I can't offer financing. I don't know of any of my competitors that do. So I think the city gives us a pretty good deal when it comes to this thing.
Yeah, thank you, to the chair. If I could just make a comment to Mr. Taylor. There was actually a landlord here earlier who owns two parcels. Now, she's not exactly an absentee landlord. She said she lives in one of the two. And she spoke in favor and at length about the project, mentioning a couple of things, echoing Councilor Connie's point that she could not get financing for a broken septic. She says that the state will wait at night waiting for the septic to break eventually, which it's going to do, and then deal with all that stuff. Get it done, pay for it by the month, you've got a budget, do it. And this is a bottom line landlord like many people in Danbury.
Good. Apologize for being late.
Mrs. Stanley.
Through the chair, Mr. Iannarone, when you talk about the costs involved that we're passing on here, and you said that you were going to go out with competitive bids, is that going to be in addition to those numbers you just gave us?
I'm sorry?
Or is that,
The estimate that was referenced is for the purpose of giving the residents a feel for where the magnitude of their assessment is. When we get competitive bids, we hope that that number, which is really the final number, is going to be considerably less, or at least less than what we estimated.
Okay, so the original percentage that you started out with was about $400,000, and currently it's about up to $900,000.
905, but you said you're going to go out to competitive bidding. And if we don't complete this, or if you get competitive bidding and it doesn't start for 2 years, it will change again.
Yeah, I mean, we don't anticipate waiting 2 years. As soon as council votes on this, we just go ahead.
This is a shovel-ready project.
It is. We got our design runs are almost complete. We have our environmental permit already, so we're really ready to go.
So the last phase is just to go out to competitive bidding to see if we can get these numbers down.
Correct. Award the contract, have a pre-construction meeting, and kick it off.
Thank you.
Mr. Perkins, for the second time?
If I'm looking at this proposed survey, is there any way to tell what zoning those non-shaded areas are off to the left of this? Yeah, all that area over there. Is there any way to tell what type of zoning that is? Is it different from what this is?
I'm going to make an assumption that it's the same, but I couldn't tell you for sure without looking at the zoning maps.
Okay, because just to follow up on what Councilman Curran said, I'm a little familiar with that area, and to see this happen the way that happened, it's a big concern. So I'm just wondering if there is a different zone from this area not shaded to the stuff that we're referencing here today.
I couldn't tell you for sure if you look at the zoning.
Thank you.
Mr. Taylor, move the question, please. We have a motion to move the question.
We gotta make a motion.
I take a motion. I make a motion.
We have to have a motion first, Mr. Knapp.
There's no question to move, but there will be. I move to recommend the extension and construction of the sanitary sewer services and opportunities as proposed by the Department of Engineering with financing pursuant to preliminary assessments as revised with final assessments to be instituted upon completion of the work and upon a final public hearing before this body.
Second. Motion been made and seconded by Mrs. Stanley. And Mr. Taylor, hold up for you. We'll just go right to a vote. If it goes into more discussion, I'll call on you next. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay. Ayes have it unanimously. Thank you. Item number 2. Fire roller, Mr. Clerk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Danbury Main Street Partnership. Who would like to, we heard from Ms. O'Connor. Do you want to say anything about Danbury Main Street Partnership before we...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I recognize that the public hearing portion has been closed, and as official member of the committee of the whole, I just want to thank the council for their indulgence tonight on this. This is a part of the nuts and bolts step that we put together to begin what we feel will be a long-term strategic revitalization of Main Street. And what does that mean? It means that we have to start by putting in the foundation, the building blocks for success on Main Street. The way to do that is to have an oversight committee, as mentioned during the public hearing portion of this meeting, that will work closely and will be attached here to the administration versus a separate organization attached directly to City Center. So we're not looking to usurp the role of City Center. They'll still do the things that they do every day in terms of the quality of life and the event planning that they do. This is a much broader group that will provide a greater perspective, a bird's eye view, if you will, on Main Street and what's happening on Main Street. We've already had a number of people that have stepped forward that are willing to participate in this particular group. And we'll meet here at City Hall. We'll assign a staff person to do that. And probably their first thing that they'll have to do, the number one thing they'll have to do will be to conduct a parking study and analysis and needs assessment of that. And those are the kinds of things that will be run through the Main Street Partnership and will not be run through City Center so that we can have a little bit more direction, a little bit more voice provided to the global aspects. They'll also have a number, I'll be coming to in July with a number of recommendations from the the Renaissance Task Force about permit fees and about a whole host of things and services that we charge for in the downtown revitalization zone, which was approved by the zoning commission a couple weeks ago. And so all of these things kind of work in tandem as a way to begin putting the foundation, the building block for success on Main Street. So with that, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mayor Mott. Okay, open the floor for any questions. Mr. Knapp?
Just one briefly to Mr. Pinter, or I believe you should report Mr. Pinter. The mayor briefly touched on the fact that there's several things that are going to come before this group once it is established. I've received several calls from constituents concerned about what they read in the paper that zoning has approved regarding tax breaks and parking, different parking programs. That's not that we're not voting that now. I just want to make that correct. The record, you can just say yes, because I just want to make sure everybody knows that.
The simple language is yes. The first step has nothing. This has nothing to do with that. Certainly can be recommendations related to it, but those steps are not for this ordinance.
Mr. Muir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Mr. Chairman, from Mr. Pinker. I think I already answered this question, but just to make sure that, in terms of the mayor appointing people, what's the difference with this and other things, other organizations that the mayor appoints people to, whether it's departments or whatever, all of that kind of stuff? Because those things, the mayor appoints people and then they get approved by the council. Is it because they have we're not giving them authority to go ahead and do something except to advise the mayor? Is that's
a pretty good summary.
It is.
There's a variety.
You must have read that. No, I just went ahead.
There are certain levels of appointments and bodies, commissions, boards, and different things. And and that points to the difference between this one. There's one other one. There's a housing authority partnership as well. It's created in a very similar way, and those are, I would say, at a different level. The level being more of a recommendation body. You have other bodies, authorities, other boards and commissions that do require confirmation by the city council. And there are a couple of exceptions. This would be one of them, where the mayor would simply make the appointments. But when you approve the ordinance, you would be agreeing to that. The mayor makes the appointments, and then the people serve on the body. However, the body, remember, in the ordinance, the body reports to the council recommendations as well as to the mayor. So you see what the partnership is recommending. So they'll be presenting recommendations to you as well.
Thank you. But the council would not have any
no veto power, no confirmation power. You have that right now in seeing what the bodies from which the pool can be drawn from. In other words, before
no, we're talking individuals.
No.
Yeah, okay. That's what
I can just interject there. It may, Mr. Mayor, I think it would be very appropriate to have at least 2 council people who serve on the partnership. We can kind of work that out amongst ourselves, those individuals that want to volunteer or perhaps participate, to serve and provide linkage to the monthly meetings that are going on, and just sort of report back to the caucuses and talk a little bit about that. But anything that the partnership does, apply for a grant, things like that, has to come before the city council for authority.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Just 1 second, I'll change the date. Okay. Commissioner Cassidy.
Thank you. To anybody who can answer this, how much will this cost?
Postage and email expenses.
Postage and email expenses.
Now, every recommendation will come out that will cost thousands.
That comes back.
That comes back.
That comes back to you. But,
Which will probably defer.
but the operation of any commission is very modest.
So nickels in the beginning.
Yeah. Nickels over.
And then anything larger gets approved by the body.
That's the whole.
Thank you.
Mr. Keys?
Through the chair to Corporation Council. Just so that to clarify that the partnership will have no enforcement authority, correct? That will still be the powers of the city center, the downtown council, there is the authority to enforce the regulations that pertain to downtown, or the planning department, but the partnership will have no enforcement.
They will have no enforcement authority.
Mr. Riddell?
If I may, let me just get clear on one thing. Let's assume we grant this proposal, the mayor appoints the task force, and they do what they do, which is come back with recommendations, and then those recommendations begin to proceed, they begin to become instituted. Do the taxpayers at that point have to pay for those proposals, or is it going to be paid by the special assessment to the downtown district, or what? Because if this body is not approving these appointments, and if this body is not approving the proposals, if this body is simply writing a check with no oversight, I am beginning to get nervous and would like to call for at least approval of the body. So just walk me through this if you can briefly.
Let me just jump in here for a second, Mr. Hotel. The ordinance is created the same way the Danbury Housing Partnership, right? So if you're comfortable with the way they operate, then you'll be comfortable with the way the Main Street Partnership operates. But the Main Street Partnership cannot assess anybody any money. They don't have any taxing authority. They don't have the ability to borrow. They don't have the ability to spend unless they come here and ask you for permission to do so.
At which point we would then have oversight of that. Well, that's all I'm trying to get at. Right? So at the point where the checks are written, they're coming to us and saying, we need some dough, we need $5,000 for planners or whatever, can you do that?
And the Housing Partnership has done that for the homeless.
That's all I want to know. At the time that ink goes on the check, they're in front of us saying, this is what we need, this is where we are, can you help us out?
And I'm not trying to confuse the council, but I will be coming with an application for a parking study grant in July. We're going to do that in our own name because the Main Street Partnership won't be set up yet. So we'll get that going for them, and then they can meet with the consultant and do approval.
My point is really simple. Once the money starts to flow, it flows from here.
It has to, absolutely has to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to receive the ad hoc committee report and its recommendations to approve and adopt ordinance section 19C creating the Danbury Main Street Park.
Second. Motion been made and seconded by Mr. Perkins. Other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Ayes have it. Okay, now on to the real big item of the night. Item number 3, unwrapped coins, total section 18-24. Why is everybody leaving now on this item? They're going to get their pennies. Folks, just for a little background, everybody, this came before the council on the agenda. We both caucuses talked, leadership talked, and we felt that it didn't really warrant an ad hoc committee, that we could probably do it as a committee of the whole immediately after the public hearing. So at this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Ferguson if you would just briefly give us a rundown of your request here and what you're hoping to achieve, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Currently, there's an ordinance that allows up to $20 in unwrapped coins to be accepted when someone's paying a debt to the city. I'm coming to you as a tax collector because there are rare occasions when this will happen in the office. How rare? Once every 9 to 12 months. That's how rare. The problem is it's a great disruption to service when this happens. So someone comes in who's unhappy with us and will hand us a bag of coins to pay their debt, whatever that debt might be, up to $20. We now have to take these coins and count all of them and verify. We always do it in the back office, but the cashier processing the transaction has to verify the coins because they are responsible for their cash flow. So once it gets turned over to them, they have to stop what they're doing to process this. And this can take quite a bit of time. And the problem is I found that this always happens at a bad time, when there's a line. Okay, so these folks who are online are now slowed down because I have a cashier tied up with this. And God forbid it happens during a lunch hour when one of the cashiers is gone, that puts a whole new twist to it. So the purpose of changing the ordinance is to just put some controls on this type of transaction. And as you'll see by it, I'm basically saying once you reach a wrappable denomination of a coin, you have to wrap it. So I won't go into all of that, but it'll just allow us to process this type of transaction much quicker and get it done so the person in line behind them isn't standing there waiting for 10, 15 minutes for us to do this. And the big thing is because the cashier has to verify that transaction because they are responsible for it. It's not the time it takes us to do it, but it's the next person waiting there. So that's why I've asked for the council's indulgence on this.
Thank you. Mrs. Salmon?
I understand that all points should be wrapped, but is there anything in this ordinance that would limit, say, $1,000 payment that they have to pay? If they want to pay it all in change, but as long as it's wrapped, it's still legal tendering, okay?
I don't think anyone's going to come in for $1,000.
If they're mad enough, then
That's heavy. But no, there's nothing in there prohibited.
probably the same way to wrap
Okay, let's start with Mr. Rotella, we'll go to Mr. Cheney's, and then Mr. Perkins.
Move the chair to Scott Ferguson, the president. Scott, does your office have experience taking wrap coins? Making sure that you know how to count them when they're already wrapped and weigh them and there's not slugs in there and all that kind of stuff?
We do not have a weighing machine for wrapped coins. We don't have a coin counter or anything like that.
So you take a wrap and just assume if it says 50 cents worth of pennies, it's 50 cents worth of pennies?
If it seems reasonable,
Right.
yes. If we don't like the way it's wrapped, then we can open it up and count it or ask them to rewrap the coins, but I've not run into a problem with that before.
But you do this on a pretty regular basis?
Right.
Okay.
And of course, the bank verifies what we're depositing, so they would certainly find that if we were to make an error. We've never had that.
Yeah, no, I know that, but by then it's the chain of custody has gone down a couple of notches, and the guy who gave me the nickel is basically in the book. The only issue I had with this, Mr. Chairman, was the legality of us dictating what kind of legal tender we can and cannot accept. It seemed to me this afternoon that we didn't have that right, that we simply had to accept any legal tender at all. But in consultation with Corporation Counsel, I was informed that that's not exactly the case. We can't actually, I didn't know this, we can stipulate what kind of legal tender that we want to accept, and apparently communities have done this for years. So we're always seeing and those weird news things, the guy paying his alimony with a wheelbarrow with the nickels and winding up in court and, whatever, okay. Apparently, if we can do this, I can sign on. And I've been assured that the Corporation Counsel wants to speak on that, that's fine, but I've been assured that we have the authority to do this, so it seems like an okay.
Thank you, Mr. Rotella. Mr. Cheney?
Through the chair, I would think if, given that in today's time, we're collecting any type of money, I think I'll be happy to get anything, even if it's $20 and change. So my question is, why don't we just buy a change counter? Because as our cities grow and we get more people, this problem could come up more often than not. So a change counter, what, $120 for a change counter? I mean, did we look into a change counter?
I know they're expensive, because I've had some expensive.
Yeah, my question is, did we look into a change counter?
We have, we have to have a reliable change counter that the bank is going to accept, because you can't just buy a cheap one, the bank has to, you have to coordinate with the bank to make sure that it's one that is reliable. And then you have to make sure that it's tested frequently enough that it stays reliable. So, we can also check that, but still, then you have the delay issue. You still have the delay issue, and it's inconvenient to the customers behind. And it always comes at the worst of times.
But we can actually.
But I mean, to address your question, Councilor, that would be good for the time at the end of the day when you're trying to wrap points for delivery to the bank, and not for the time when everybody's standing in line. So there's really a couple different issues here. There's one at the window itself, to prevent the delay to other customers behind the one who's paying, and then the one to deal with, at the end of the day when you're trying to count all the points that you have. That's your issue.
But I think we can address it by, we can stipulate when we will take the point. We'll not take them the day of tax day. We will not accept the point. But we'll only accept them in the morning or afternoon, but not during our busiest hours. So we can always turn them away at that point. Tell them to come back, another time we'll come back and wrap. Because I just don't want to have them come up and say, I'm sorry, but we're not going to accept your point, and they never come back. Because I think that could actually happen. Because the people who are paying your change are the ones who really don't have checkbooks, they don't have access to a bank, or they won't go in the bank. They're scrounging just to come up with the $20 in coin, which is the minimum anyway that we'll accept. Maximum. So I think we're always just deterring people from paying. Because we know who we're dealing with, the low-income stuff. Not the people who are trying to get back at the city. But I think we're dealing with the low-income stuff. People, I would think.
That's not the situation, Council. It's a person who's upset that they got charged interest for being a day late. So here you go, here's your $12, here's my coins, go ahead and count them. If someone comes to the window with $5 in quarters, we certainly aren't upset about that, even $10 in quarters. But it's only happened when someone's upset. I've had people come in with old money who come in with symbols on. It's a lot easier to count pennies, of course, but it's always someone who's struggling. And it's very rare, but unfortunately, you don't know when it's going to
I
happen.
understand, but to follow up on what you just said, this ordinance prevents any change at all. So you can accept full quarter.
It asks that if you pay more than 49 cents in pennies, wrap it. More than $1.95 in nickels, wrap. More than $4.95 in dimes, wrap. More than $9.95 in quarters. It just helps control the situation.
Still take the coin machines, just that it has to be, if it's a denomination that can be wrapped, it has to be wrapped in order to be taken.
Now, if you can come in up to $10 and pay without having a wrap on you, I don't know if you can, but go for it. I mean, it's okay. I'm just trying to get a little control. It's very rare, but when it does happen, it's very disruptive to the flow of the pennies. And you just don't know when you're going to have a line, quite honestly.
Mr. Perkins? Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think a lot of my questions were pretty much addressed. The first concern I had was whether or not this is even legal, whether or not we can even do this. But I guess Mr. Latour talked to Corporation Counsel and we can actually do it. The other concern I had was this verification, where the person walks up to the counter, leaves their coins wrapped, they go away. How quick is the verification process? Who knows what's in the wraps? I don't know if that has been fully addressed, but I guess they know what they're doing with that. And it probably would be a good idea to have the teller station or our clerks fully manned during business times of the day. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy, do you want to add something?
I just wanted to visit.
And then we'll go to visitations.
I'm sorry, Mayor. A few people brought the least impression of legality. I just want to quickly address that since you get past that. There's a lot of cases, we could think probably a dozen situations in the city where for what we'll call administrative convenience, we require a certain kind of bond, submission of permits in a certain format, things like that. those are reasonable administrative adjustments to be made based upon the reasonable needs of the city, processing needs, administrative needs. Secondly, we did scour, if you will, the landscape of the law in this regard in Connecticut, and there isn't any prohibition on this procedure. And it's a low level, as you can see, it's a very low level situation. But it's a reasonable exercise of administrative discretion, we'll call it that way. And so long as people are not denied the opportunity to make good on their payments, you don't run afoul of the law.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mrs. Maxwell?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to recommend the amendment to the Code of Ordinance, Section 18-24, regarding tax and receivable payment and coinage as set forth in the proposed ordinance.
Second. Motion been made, seconded by Mr. Taylor. Under discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? With the record reflecting Mr. Cheney's and Mr. Perkins voting in negative. Thank you, everybody. At this time, seeing no further business before us, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Taylor, thank you. And seconded by Mr. Cole. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Thank you, everybody. Mr. Perkins, Mr. Cheney, thank you, everybody.